In Konoha the opening game plays as Jikuni Yuanichi Chapter 701-725. Chapter 701. The insects all looked very sad. Over the years, under the governance of the queen, their Zerg has achieved unprecedented glory. Now, the queen died in front of them, but they could not avenge her. You are so brave. You pretend to obey me on the surface, but you are instigated by women to kill me. Who is next? Those who want to die, come here early. Chimu Kusuo stepped hard on the queen's body, and did not forget to scold a few words. He gradually lost patience with these insects. Chimu Kusuo originally thought that human nature is good. But now it seems that such a reason cannot be explained in the Zerg. These insects only have interests in their eyes. You hateful guys, if it weren't for Chimu Kusuo's good heart, I'm afraid you would have gone to the 18th level of hell. I tell you, if you met me, I would have sent you down long ago. Sun Wukong said with disdain looking at these insects. In the process of fighting with these insects before, Sun Wukong was bullied by them. Now these insects have become prisoners, and Sun Wukong hopes that Seiki Kusuo can punish them severely, otherwise it will be difficult to relieve the hatred in his heart. Under the majesty of Sun Wukong and Seiki Kusuo, the insects dare not show too much sadness. The insects dare not speak, but just lower their heads and show a submissive look. Now that the queen is dead, their last hope has disappeared completely. If they want to live in this world, I am afraid that the only way is to obey Seiki Kusuo. Today's matter ends here. If the same thing happens again next time, I will definitely destroy all of you. If anyone still has second thoughts, it is recommended to consider the insect race in advance. After Seiki Kusuo said this, he stepped on the queen's body and left this side. Sun Wukong followed. After returning to the tent, Seiki Kusuo had a slightly painful expression. Just now in front of the insects, Seiki Kusuo didn't want to show his weakness. Good fellow, how could you be so badly injured? You didn't explain it earlier. How could this situation be serious? Sun Wukong seemed very distressed. I didn't expect Seiki Kusuo to be so injured during the fight. The weapons of these insects are poisonous, and coupled with the sweat, Seiki Kusuo must have been in great pain just now. Those insects are not really submitting to me. If I show a weak appearance in front of them, I'm afraid these insects will think of other ways. Why should I trouble myself? Seiki Kusuo smiled. Thinking of what he did this time, Seiki Kusuo felt a little stupid. If it happened again, he would definitely not be kind to these insects. At present, he has kept these bugs, and Seiki Kusuo is thinking of changing to another way to deal with these bugs. Forget it, it's useless for me to say something else now. I'll apply medicine to you first. Your wound is too serious. It might fester and fester. Sun Wukong shook his head and took out the medical kit. Looking at the red behind Seiki Kusuo, Sun Wukong muttered to himself while not forgetting to slow down his movements. Chapter 702. With the treatment of medicine and the nourishment of chakra in his body, Seiki Kusuo's body system gradually recovered. Seiki Kusuo twisted his neck, got up and walked around the house for a few times. Seeing Seiki Kusuo's relaxed look, Sun Wukong couldn't help but tease him, "You are now open-minded. It was too dangerous just now. If these insects are not taught well, I'm afraid that the knife will be on our necks next time." Thinking of what happened just now, Sun Wukong now feels a chill on his back. If he had been a little faster just now, I'm afraid that Seiki Kusuo's body would not be intact here. I will definitely discipline them well this time, you just need to watch from the side. If there are some inappropriate words in my words, you can also point them out in time. I don't intend to be merciful to them again. Seiki Kusuo put down these words and went out, and Sun Wukong hurriedly followed him out. At this moment, the insects were kneeling outside the room to plead guilty. The queen was dead, and their only support was gone. Seeing the insects hanging their heads, Sun Wukong smiled disdainfully. These guys were not as honest as they are now. Now, without a backer, they are like a deflated ball. My king, it's all our fault for listening to that woman's lies. We are here to apologize to you and hope that you can forgive us. We will never make the same mistake again in the future. The atmosphere was very awkward. The leading fighting bug seemed much bolder and took the initiative to break the deadlock. I hope you can forgive our previous behavior. We will be loyal to you in the future. Seeing this, the other bugs hurriedly stepped forward to express their sincerity. I have lost my trust in you. I warn you for the last time. It's best not to provoke me, otherwise you will be 10 times or 100 times worse than the queen. Chimyu Kusuo scolded loudly, and his eyes looking at these bugs also seemed much more fierce. He didn't intend to let these bugs go from the beginning. If it weren't for the queen's pleading, he wouldn't have felt compassion. Now, he almost lost his life. What happened just now really taught Seiki Kusuo a lesson. They should be more careful. If the queen is really a good thing, there is no need to let you rush to the front and joke with your lives. If you are loyal to Seiki Kusuo, you will have benefits in the future. 0 Please give flowers. Sun Wukong couldn't help but mutter a few words. Seeing these insects so ungrateful, Sun Wukong was also very angry. All the way here, Seiki Kusuo's reputation has been shaken. Anyone who has been outside should know the title of Seiki Kusuo. It was his tolerance that Seiki Kusuo could spare the insects. Who knew that these insects would deliberately provoke, which was really too presumptuous. We are willing to be loyal to King Seiki Kusuo, please forgive us. The insects hurriedly crawled at Seiki Kusuo's feet, each of them looking very loyal, and kept shouting the slogan of Chen Chimyu Kusuo as the king. Seeing these bugs so honest, Chimyu Kusuo didn't care too much. Since they had to get along with each other in the future, Chimyu Kusuo didn't want to make things too ugly. Get up. Do your own things. 3 times the limit. You have done it twice, there is no last chance. Chimyu Kusuo gave the order, and then returned to his house. Work. Chapter 703. The battle just now killed countless people. Looking through the window of the house, seeing that the bugs outside seemed very restrained and did not dare to move too much, Sun Wukong couldn't help shaking his head. Chimyu Kusuo has now taken over the Zerg, so he has to let the Zerg develop in the future, otherwise this matter will become a stain on Chimyu Kusuo and be criticized by outsiders. The queen is dead. We need to find a new queen to reproduce for these 117 insects, otherwise the insects will not be able to develop for a long time. Sun Wukong said what he thought. Although he seemed to hate these insects. But thinking about the future, Sun Wukong felt that they could be arranged at this moment. After all, it is impossible for Seiki Kusuo to stay here forever. If he can find a confidant as soon as possible and appease many insects, it can also save a lot of trouble. Seiki Kusuo patted his head. Sun Wukong's words hit the heart. Just now, during the fight with the queen, Seiki Kusuo felt very happy when he strangled the queen to death. But when he calmed down afterwards, Seiki Kusuo also had some regrets. In this insect tribe, the reproduction of the queen alone can expand the population of the insect tribe. Now that the queen is dead, the reproduction of the insect tribe has stopped. You have considered it properly this time. I thought you would let me kill them all. Seiki Kusuo teased. Sun Wukong has always been impulsive and irritable. Today's proposal made Seiki Kusuo look at him with a new eye. I am not a vicious person. If these insects can correct themselves, you just need to train them. Who knows, they will become our powerful helpers in the future. Sun Wukong picked up the tea on the table and drank it all. The battle just now also made Sun Wukong see the current situation clearly. Although they have gained a lot along the way. But the next journey will inevitably encounter bad guys who are like the queen. If you want to quickly solve the troubles on the journey, you must have your own powerful army, and these insects are the best thing to use. Only male insects have returned so far. I have to call back all the female combat insects and select the strongest one from them to train. Chimyu Kusuo thought about it and made up his mind. Since a new generation of queen is to be established, this queen must obey his own constraints. As the main system for the reproduction of the insect race, the queen must have the strongest physical fitness. Otherwise, this queen will not be able to stay in power for long. Chimyu Kusuo blew the whistle, and many female insects returned to the camp. The insect race has a different rule from other races. The two groups of insects act separately. Male combat insects are responsible for hunting. Female combat insects are responsible for collecting honey outside. This time when the two groups of insects meet, the male combat insects are inevitably too excited. Due to the presence of Chi Mu Kusuo, the male combat insects are not good at showing too much. I summoned you back today to discuss important matters. Female combat insects, come to the camp with me to talk. Seiki Kusuo gave the order, and many female combat insects nodded. Although they didn't know what Seiki Kusuo was doing at the moment. On the way back, they also heard about everything that happened to the Zerg. The female combat insects didn't dare to say much to save their lives. Chapter 704. The female combat insects gathered together, looking at Seiki Kusuo curiously, waiting for Seiki Kusuo's next order. The previous queen has died at my hands. You should have heard about this. At present, for the reproduction of the Zerg clan, I have decided to select a new queen. I will train you strictly for a period of time. Seiki Kusuo walked back and forth in front of many insects, observing the changes in the facial expressions of each insect very carefully. Seiki Kusuo did not skip the topic of killing the previous queen. Seiki Kusuo wanted to let these bugs know that he was the master here. If these magnetic bugs had any rebellious intentions, their fate would be the same as the previous queen. He was not a man who would have any sympathy for women. Got it. The female bug nodded and agreed. In the following period of time, Seiki Kusuo began to train them with devilish skills, and Sun Wukong was responsible for assisting them. These bugs originally had high burst values, and the female combat bugs were lighter than the male combat bugs, so they were much more agile when fighting. The results of these training days made Seiki Kusuo very satisfied. Do you have a suitable candidate? We have been training for a while, and it is time to decide on the new queen. Sun Wukong touched Seiki Kusuo's shoulder and asked a few questions in a low voice. Although they had already decided on the selection of the queen, release the news as early as possible. But at this last critical moment, Sun Wukong still felt that it was better to be vigilant to prevent being preempted by some people with bad intentions. There is no rush for this. I see that several insects have performed very well. After a week, I will test them. The one with the strongest physical fitness is the queen. Chi Mu Kusuo played with the beads in his hand. Of course, he was very concerned about this matter. But the current training time is too short, and it seems a bit inappropriate to select in such a short time. Chi Mu Kusuo decided to train for a while longer, observe carefully, and then decide on the final candidate. After all, the queen is a crucial role, and you must not choose the wrong person again. Sun Wukong nodded and agreed. Chi Mu Kusuo has always done things properly. Sun Wukong seemed very relieved about Chi Mu Kusuo's proposal. In the next week, the two of them increased the training of these insects. Many female insects have long had the idea of becoming queens and seem to cooperate very well. On the day of the assessment, Seiki Kusuo also looked very serious and personally checked the physical fitness of each insect. A female insect named Shava was particularly outstanding. Whether it was the intelligence quiz or the physical test, Shava ranked first. Seeing Shava's outstanding performance, Seiki Kusuo seemed very satisfied with it. Congratulations on passing my assessment. Next, you will be the new queen of the Zerg. Come with me to meet them. Seiki Kusuo brought Shava to many insects. Insects of all genders seemed a little dissatisfied with Seiki Kusuo's selection method, and they all looked sad. Now I announce the latest news. From now on, Shava is your new queen. Seiki Kusuo gave the order loudly, and many male insects seemed particularly shocked. Chapter 705. The previous queen had just passed away, and Seiki Kusuo arranged for the new queen to take office. Many bugs were really dissatisfied with Seiki Kusuo's arrangement. In the minds of these bugs, Seiki Kusuo cultivated his confidence early in order to control their bug tribe. In the Zerg, the role of the queen is very important, and the future development of the Zerg is all in the hands of the queen. Facing the queen Shava selected by Seiki Kusuo, the bugs were not very satisfied. After all, in previous years, they chose the queen by internal voting. You never listen to our opinions, and you don't even discuss the selection of the queen with us. How can a ruler like you convince everyone? This bug has never performed well in the Zerg before. Why did you let it become the queen so quickly? It's so funny. Even if you are in a hurry to arrange your own people, you don't have to be so anxious. You exposed your purpose so quickly. Aren't you afraid that we will have second thoughts in the future? Several bugs seemed very dissatisfied and started to discuss below. Hearing what the bugs said, Queen Shava did not hesitate and went over to slap several bugs loudly. Assholes, since the king has arranged it this way, you still have the turn to speak here, not to mention how much ability I have, I know in my heart. Shava stared at the bugs viciously. Shava's sudden move startled Sun Wukong, who was standing beside him. Sun Wukong leaned close to Seiki Kusuo's ear and whispered, I always feel that you have chosen a tigress character, which is too cruel. You kid can just watch from the side, don't interrupt too much here, they always need to run in that step. Chimu Kusuo hit him with a slap, and Sun Wukong retreated to the side with grievance. Chimu Kusuo seemed very satisfied with Shava's performance. It is said that a new official will start with 3 fires. If Shava can't suppress these insects who want to rebel at this time, I am afraid it will be even more difficult to convince the public in the future. Today, Shava's move is really gratifying. Bah, don't rely on Chimu Kusuo to support you and dare to act arrogantly in front of us. When the queen was present, you didn't know where to get along. The insect spit on the ground. He felt very dissatisfied with Shava's behavior. When the queen was present, Shava didn't make any name in the Zerg. Then today I will let you see how powerful I am. If you can defeat me within 3 moves, I will kneel here to apologize to you. Shava slapped him again. The male bug was completely furious and fought with Shava. Many bugs hurriedly stepped aside. The fight between the 2 sides was very fierce, and the bug was quickly defeated. Facing other unconvinced bugs, Shava did not show any courtesy, pulled them to the center of the crowd, and beat them up to Dajao. After several fights, Shava acted very relaxed, and completely solved these bugs within 3 moves. Facing Shava's performance, Seiki Kusuo also applauded on the side. He wanted such a decisive queen. I hope that today's incident can teach you a lesson, and I hope that other bugs can wake up from it. After saying this, Seiki Kusuo hooked his finger and motioned the queen to come to his room to talk. Angry. Chapter 706. Shava followed Seiki Kusuo all the way to his room. The eyesight is strong. When facing the bugs outside, it shows a fierce look. In front of Seiki Kusuo, it is very obedient, and the whole person's eyes become much softer. Thank you for giving me this opportunity. In the next process, I will cooperate with you to manage the Zerg properly and never let these bugs cause trouble to you again. Without waiting for Seiki Kusuo to speak, Shava said what he was thinking next. Now that he has taken the position of queen, Shava also feels that his good intentions have been satisfied. Since you have become the queen, you must have your own management routine for these bugs. I want to know if you have made plans for the next step. Seiki Kusuo sat cross-legged and shook the teacup on the table. Now, the candidate for the queen has been completely finalized. Shava's performance just now made him very satisfied. Seiki Kusuo wanted to see if Shava had long-term ambitions. After all, as the queen of the Zerg, only if Shava's thoughts keep up, other Zergs can change their thoughts. My lord, I think the former queen has just passed away, and there are many of her confidants in this tribe. In order to ensure that everything goes smoothly, I think we should come up with some classification marks to completely classify these Zergs. Shava expressed his thoughts, and he only mentioned the death of the former queen lightly. Seeing that Shava's thoughts were so independent and the opinions he put forward were very in line with people's hearts, Seiki Kusuo applauded. Shava is worthy of being the queen he personally selected. Speaking of the former queen, Shava did not avoid too much. In Seiki Kusuo's eyes, only such a king can truly treat the development of a tribe well. Explain things more clearly, I also want to know your specific arrangements. Seiki Kusuo hooked his finger and motioned Shava to sit down in front of him. He always likes to talk to smart people. Shava respected him very much, and he also had the confidence to manage the Zerg tribe well. Seiki Kusuo now had high hopes for Shava. In my opinion, it is far from enough to rely on the discipline between the king and me. We should divide the corresponding levels, from big to small, so that it is convenient to manage the large army. Shava's mind was very clear, and he did not seem to be nervous when facing Seiki Kusuo's sudden question. He spoke very logically. Seeing Shava like this, Seiki Kusuo seemed more optimistic. I think what you said is very good, then do it as you said. In order to better distinguish them, it is best to customize corresponding wooden signs for them, and people of different identities will hold signs of different colors. Seiki Kusuo nodded and agreed. Since he was determined to hand over the management of the Zerg tribe to Shava, he would not restrict Shava's behavior too much. Now, the suggestion made by Shava is very much in line with his wishes. Seiki Kusuo thinks that he can give it a try and let Shava contact these bugs as much as possible, establish his authority in the Zerg tribe as soon as possible, and avoid future troubles. Shava nodded in agreement, and the craftsman below quickly launched various tokens. Looking at the various tokens placed in front of him, Seiki Kusuo seemed more satisfied. Chapter 707. Shava stretched out his hand and wanted to take these tokens. Seeing Seiki Kusuo sitting there without issuing orders, Shava seemed a little embarrassed, smiled awkwardly, and quickly took his hand back. Take these tokens to subdue them, do it boldly, I will support you behind you, and I will also test your courage and courage to be the queen. Seiki Kusuo waved his hand, indicating that Shava could move freely. Shava nodded in agreement, took different signs and came outside. At this moment, the bugs were gathered together and talking fiercely. In the eyes of these insects, Shava and Seiki Kusuo are definitely having an affair. Otherwise, Seiki Kusuo would not have handed over the power of the Zerg to Shava so readily. When the insects saw Shava coming out of the tent, they did not give Shava a good look. I will give you 3 minutes to gather in front of me immediately. I have an important order next. If anyone fails to come after the time limit, the whip in my hand will be a lesson. Shava gave the order and did not forget to whip the whip. The thin whip made a crisp sound when it rubbed against the air, and the insects were also frightened. Some timid insects hurriedly stood at attention in front of Shava. Other insects hesitated for a while, and then came here to stand side by side. In the next few days, I will be your new queen. All orders will be issued by me. I hope everyone can obey. Please take your own token. Shava distributed tokens of different colors. The bugs were increasingly confused about this token. When the previous queen was present, there was no token distribution system. They only followed a military token. What kind of sign is this? What does it do? Why are the colors of our signs different? Some are dark red, while others are bright colors. Some bold bug in the swarm shouted. Other bugs also hurriedly echoed and raised their own questions. Shava picked up the stick in his hand and knocked it hard on the ground. The color of the sign is different. The darker it is, the higher your status in the Zerg. The distribution this time is naturally based on your past assessment performance. 0 Please give me flowers. Shava did not forget to place the record book of each worm's contribution to the Zerg in front of these worms. Seeing that Shava was well prepared, the worms did not say much. They stared at Shava blankly and listened to Shava's next instructions. In order to facilitate governance, all worms with dark-colored cards can manage the worms of the same light-colored series under their control. If these worms speak or act rashly, I will directly hold you, the worms holding dark-colored cards, responsible. After Shava gave the order, many bugs seemed a little excited. I didn't expect that Shava would directly divide the class. The bugs holding the light-colored brand series seemed a little dissatisfied. However, since they usually don't have much say in the Zerg, they dare not discuss too much below. Shava announced the strict rules he had set in front of all the bugs. Its aura was very strong, and the bugs below were all impressed by it. Seimu Kusuo, who was standing at the corner, seemed more satisfied with this scene and valued Shava. The Queen, more. Worker. Chapter 708. These days, although Sun Wukong did not intervene too much in the affairs of the Zerg, he has been paying attention to the situation here. Seeing that the Queen has now established basic prestige in the Zerg, Sun Wukong seems a little worried. Thinking of the previous things, Sun Wukong felt his heart beating hard. He was really worried that this queen would do the same thing as the previous queen. Seeing that Seiki Kusuo was lying in the corner watching the seven gods, Sun Wukong patted Seiki Kusuo on the shoulder and pulled Seiki Kusuo to the hall to talk. You kid, just say whatever you think. Why are you so mysterious? I'm still thinking about continuing to watch the queen's performance. Qingyu Kusuo looked at Sun Wukong with some doubts. He always felt that Sun Wukong was acting strange recently. When he got along with Sun Wukong before, Sun Wukong was carefree and didn't seem like someone who could hold back. Since he came to the Zerg, Sun Wukong has been more reserved in what he said and did. Don't think that the queen is doing well now. There is still a long way to go. As the saying goes, time reveals a person's true character. I advise you not to take it lightly so quickly. Sun Wukong lowered his voice and whispered a few words. After all, this was spoken behind the queen's back, so Sun Wukong couldn't show too much. What are you thinking about? I personally selected this queen, so she can't be wrong. She is not as scary as you said. Qingyu Kusuo smiled nonchalantly. He always felt that Sun Wukong was under some spell. Perhaps it was because of the experience of the queen that Sun Wukong had a psychological shadow in his heart, which made Sun Wukong so cautious. It has not yet fully mastered it, so it will naturally surrender to you. The queen did the same thing before. Don't forget that the queen changes her face faster than turning a page of a book. Sun Wukong sighed. He just hoped that Qingyu Kusuo could be more careful. But don't let the previous situation happen again. The last time was really dangerous, and the Zerg were just a little bit away from turning defeat into victory, and they were going to become prisoners. Each queen has a different personality, not to mention that this queen is the one I chose after careful selection, and I don't believe that my vision is so bad. Qingyu Kusuo stood on tiptoe and looked forward. Seeing that the queen had trained many insects very well, Qingyu Kusuo seemed more satisfied. For other things, I can completely follow your arrangements, but I advise you to be more careful about this matter. The strength of this queen should not be underestimated. I am afraid that one day she will rebel. Sun Wukong half squinted his eyes. Seeing the queen training insects on the field, Sun Wukong seemed a little worried. Compared with the previous queen, this queen seems to be much wiser and smarter. If this queen suddenly leads the insects to rebel, I am afraid that they will not only face a hard battle next, but also have to prepare for a life and death game. You have seen my strength with your own eyes. Why should I lift others up and belittle myself? Even if this queen really has that intention, I will not let her off easily once I find out. Qingyu Kusuo is now very confident in himself. Since the system was restored, Qingyu Kusuo felt that he had once again stood on the top of the clouds, and no creature could be his opponent. Seeing Qingyu Kusuo like this, Sun Wukong didn't say much. Sun Wukong glanced at Qingyu Kusuo, shook his head and left. Chapter 709. Since he has only been rooted here for a short time, and has been dealing with Zerg affairs for some time, Qingyu Kusuo is not particularly clear about the terrain of this area. Considering the next action, Qingyu Kusuo summoned the queen to the hall for a talk. You have performed very well recently. If you continue with this momentum, I believe that the reorganization will be able to multiply again in a short time. Qingyu Kusuo did not hesitate to praise. Seeing the queen come in, Qingyu Kusuo was very friendly and poured a cup of tea for the queen. These days, under the control of Shava under the guidance of the king, Seiki Kusuo also felt that the burden on his shoulders was much lighter. Thank you for your praise, it is also under your wise guidance that I can achieve such achievements. The development of the Zerg today is inseparable from your command. Shava seemed to be very good at speaking. While recognizing her own efforts, she also did not forget to praise Seiki Kusuo. Sitting with a smart woman like Shava, Seiki Kusuo felt that his whole body and mind were very comfortable and happy. I asked you to come here today because I have something important to discuss. I want to ask about the specific situation of this planet. Seiki Kusuo did not chat too much and directly raised his questions. I have lived in this area for a long time. Due to the recent affairs, I have not been out too much. Thinking that the next action must be clear about the terrain in advance, Seiki Kusuo also plans to have a good talk with Shava today. I don't know what specific situation the king wants to know. There are still many things inside our planet. Shava took the tea on the table and took a sip. Since Seiki Kusuo supported her to the position of queen, Shava has shown more respect for Seiki Kusuo. Now, in Shava's eyes, Seiki Kusuo is not only an elder, but also a confidant. Just say what you know. I don't have any questions to ask. I just want to learn about this planet in all aspects. Seiki Kusuo answered calmly. He was not ready to ask a specific question in a short time. After all, it was the first time to come to a strange place, and he was particularly curious about everything around him. Then I'll just say it casually. The planet we are currently on is actually a primitive forest. When it comes to things about the planet, the queen obviously seems to be more relaxed. They have been wandering around this planet and are particularly familiar with every place on the planet. This is a very large primitive forest. It contains various plants and other creatures living here. When the queen said this, she did not forget to point out the window. Seiki Kusuo looked in the direction of her finger. Seiki Kusuo then discovered that there were other nests around the Zerg house, and there were many very thick trees near these nests. Since there are not many pedestrians coming here, the ecological environment has been maintained very well, and the plants and animals inside grow naturally. The queen kept talking, and Seiki Kusuo listened very carefully, and did not forget to make corresponding notes in the notebook. Because Sun Wukong didn't like Shava very much. Today, Seiki Kusuo didn't call him over. Seiki Kusuo thought that he would talk to Sun Wukong after he heard it clearly. Chapter 710. After understanding the general situation, Seiki Kusuo also came to Sun Wukong. These days, Seiki Kusuo and the queen have been going together very frequently. Sun Wukong was not very happy about Seiki Kusuo's behavior. Come over and talk, I understand the basic situation of the earth we are on. Seeing Sun Wukong standing there motionless, Seiki Kusuo couldn't help but pull him. This is not the time to be angry. They have more important tasks on this planet, which need to be completed as soon as possible so that everyone around them can understand clearly. Just tell me what's going on, I can hear it. Sun Wukong curled his lips and sat down on the ground. I thought we were on a normal planet, but after understanding it clearly, I realized that we are on a primeval forest planet. Speaking of this, Seiki Kusuo also frowned subconsciously. Seiki Kusuo has always been quite repulsive to the words, primitive forest. Traveling through several starry skies, only the modern Earth is the most suitable for human life. Oh my god, are you sure? How could we be in a primeval forest now? If that's the case, it will be more difficult to move in the future diaresis. Sun Wukong seemed a little excited and stood up suddenly. Seeing Sun Wukong like this, Chimu Kusuo felt a little confused. They have been here for several days. Although they did encounter a lot of troubles in the previous period, they were able to get through it smoothly. What are you doing? No matter which planet we are on, we have to live here. Are we going to back down just because the animals and plants here have not evolved? Chimu Kusuo couldn't help but complain. Sun Wukong's mood fluctuated greatly in the past few days, and Chimu Kusuo was a little confused. There is no such thing as backing down, but you have to know that living in the primeval forest is not as easy as you think. Many things here remain in their most primitive form and have not evolved yet. Sun Wukong shook his head, and he seemed helpless at this moment. In the primeval forest, many animals have not lost their beastly nature. If they encounter large beasts when they go out in the future, they will be in great danger. No matter what, since we are here, we always need to overcome these problems. At most, you and I will go out for a walk, and Yu Quan will go to investigate carefully. Chimu Kusuo comforted him. Chimu Kusuo had thought of a solution for this matter before. However, he has not really gone out to investigate yet, so he should not worry too much and disturb his mood. Seeing Seiki Kusuo's calm look, Sun Wukong sighed. The primeval forest is not as simple as Seiki Kusuo imagined. Once the danger breaks out, I'm afraid they can't resist it with their strength. What's more, Everything in the primeval forest seems too unfamiliar to them. Seeing that Sun Wukong didn't say anything and squatted on the ground and sighed, Seiki Kusuo felt a little helpless. The reason why I came to Sun Wukong today was to have a good discussion with him, but now Sun Wukong is frowning. Why don't I help you two know everything about the primeval forest? Just when the two were embarrassed, the queen's voice came from the corner, and Sun Wukong and Seiki Kusuo subconsciously looked up. Chapter 711. Sun Wukong and Seiki Kusuo looked at each other and nodded in agreement. Then, the three of them gathered around the tea table, and the queen sat at the top. Sun Wukong and Seiki Kusuo both looked particularly serious today, like a teacher listening to a class. Because our area is a primitive forest tribe, most of the people here are insects, and there are few pedestrians coming here on weekdays. Today, you two are also strangers from a foreign land, so it is inevitable that some people in the tribe will have a sense of rejection towards you. The queen is straightforward and did not speak too vaguely. Today, since she wanted to explain it clearly to Sun Wukong and Seiki Kusuo, the queen also planned to open her heart and speak. I know this. After all, there are very few beast tribes that can achieve a harmonious relationship with the human race. Sun Wukong nodded. Sun Wukong could understand what the queen said. When he first met Seiki Kusuo, he did not give Seiki Kusuo much good looks. Many animals and plants here are wild without artificial domestication, especially the leopards and lions here are particularly powerful, and the piranha plants here are also very fierce. The queen couldn't help shaking her head when she mentioned this. Before, the Zerg suffered heavy losses because they accidentally stepped on the piranha plants when they went out. There are many piranha plants in this area, and if you are not careful, you may become food in the mouth of the piranha plants. I really want to see what the piranha plants really look like. I have only heard of legends on weekdays, and I want to know what the piranha plants in the primeval forest look like. Chi-Mu Kusuo seemed very curious. Seeing Chi-Mu Kusuo's childish appearance, Sun Wukong punched him. This is not the time to joke. The primeval forest is not as easy as imagined, and it may be difficult to go out. The animals and plants in the primeval forest are generally better than those outside. In fact, the conditions for the growth of animals and plants are better here. The queen did not forget to make a gesture while speaking. Just listening to the queen's description, the two could not understand the true appearance of these animals and plants. Sun Wukong and Seiki Kusuo discussed it, and some decided to go out to explore before making a decision. Hearing is false, seeing is true. Thank you very much for popularizing scientific knowledge for us today. Sun Wukong and I will go out for a walk, but we will come back after we have explored it clearly. The matter of the Zerg will be left to you. Seiki Kusuo explained a few words and pulled Sun Wukong out of the Zerg. Although Sun Wukong still had a grudge against the queen, today's half-day communication time made Sun Wukong's view of the queen change a lot. Seiki Kusuo and Sun Wukong walked on the primeval forest side, looking at the huge plants around them, and both of them seemed very surprised. It seems that the queen did not like us. The spiders here are really tall. You can't see their heads at a glance. Chi-Mu Kusuo couldn't help but smile. If you have free time, lying under such a big flower and grass to enjoy the cool is a good choice. Even in the primeval forest, many things in it remain in their original appearance. Sun Wukong was rare calm today and kept walking in front. After the two carefully observed this place, it was already night. Thinking that it was a bit urgent to go back at this moment, the two found a cave to sleep. Chapter 712. It was late at night and the temperature dropped suddenly. Chi-Mu Kusuo and Sun Wukong leaned against each other back to back. If we had known that we would not be able to go back today, we should have brought some heating supplies. Now it really makes people feel cold. Sun Wukong rubbed his arms back and forth. Although his body was covered with hair, Sun Wukong's body was inevitably a little overwhelmed and a little cold because he had not spent the night outside for a long time. Seiki Kusuo took off his clothes and covered Sun Wukong with them. It's getting late. Go to bed early and go back tomorrow. I came out today just to take a look. Who knew I would stay up so late? Seiki Kusuo yawned. He was very sleepy and didn't want to chat with Sun Wukong for too long. He just wanted to have a good sleep. Today's discovery satisfied Seiki Kusuo's curiosity. Just when Seiki Kusuo was about to fall asleep, there was a sudden earthquake outside. Seiki Kusuo seemed a little panicked and pulled Sun Wukong up. If an earthquake happened at this moment, it would be even more dangerous. What's going on? The Queen didn't mention earthquakes before. There have been earthquakes here recently. The weather is relatively good, and it is impossible for an earthquake to occur suddenly. Chimyu Kusuo seemed very confused, and Sun Wukong was ready to go out to check the situation with his stick. Worried that Sun Wukong would act rashly and provoke something he shouldn't provoke. Chimyu Kusuo simply pulled Sun Wukong to sit on the ground. You wait here first, I will go out to check it out and then notify you. If there is really danger, you can come out to help me in time. Chimyu Kusuo said a few words, and then took the weapon in his hand and left the cave. As soon as he came out, Chimyu Kusuo saw a pair of green things swaying back and forth in front of him in the dark. Who on earth is this? Come out quickly, don't force me to take action later. Chimyu Kusuo shouted a few words. Chimyu Kusuo was inevitably a little panicked by this inexplicable thing. Just when Chimyu Kusuo was in a stalemate with this thing, the green lantern in front of him suddenly moved. When this thing walked into the bright land, Chimyu Kusuo saw clearly that the thing in front of him was not a monster, but a leopard with fangs. Zero, please give me flowers. Without waiting for Chimyu Kusuo to say hello, the leopard came directly to Chimyu Kusuo hoarsely. Faced with the leopard's impulsive behavior, Chimyu Kusuo did not intend to argue with him, and simply hid everywhere. It was not easy to encounter such a rare animal along the way. Zero Chimyu Kusuo wanted to save his life for future reproduction. After all, the primeval forest also needs the existence of every animal, and the ecological harmony cannot be destroyed because of his arrival. I advise you to calm down. I have no intention of fighting with you. If you come here to hunt, you can move freely. My friends and I will not do anything to hurt you. While dodging, Seiki Kusuo did not forget to explain a few words. In Seiki Kusuo's eyes, this leopard was inevitably too impulsive. Just now, he and Sun Wukong did not make much noise in the cave, and it was impossible to disturb the leopard's night hunting. The leopard came fiercely, and Seiki Kusuo tried his best to stand in a high position. Work. Chapter 713. The leopard was very blind, and Seiki Kusuo tolerated the leopard everywhere, but he had no intention of stopping, and kept biting Seiki Kusuo. The noise outside was very loud, and Sun Wukong in the cave could not sit still, so he simply came out with the golden hoop. Seeing the scene clearly in front of him, Sun Wukong seemed a little surprised. Don't try to reason with a beast, hurry up and fight him, otherwise if you continue like this, when you run out of strength, the leopard will bite your neck. Sun Wukong was really anxious watching from the side. Chimyu Kusuo was a gentle person. It was understandable to be tolerant on weekdays, but the situation was different now. If Chimyu Kusuo kept giving in, it would only hurt himself. It was late at night now, and the leopard was in a state of rage. If Chimyu Kusuo could not subdue the leopard, I am afraid that Chimyu Kusuo would suffer in the end. Sun Wukong really didn't want to see Chimyu Kusuo being hurt by other animals. Along the way, Chimyu Kusuo had been polite enough to these beasts. Forget it, I have no intention of fighting with him. I just hope that the leopard can stop quickly. I really don't want to play a chasing game with him in the middle of the night. Chimyu Kusuo jumped up and jumped to the branch. After several rounds of going back and forth with the leopard, Chimyu Kusuo was very tired at the moment, breathing heavily. Seeing the leopard shouting under the tree, Chimyu Kusuo shook his head. He was really polite to the leopard. If other animals came back, Chimyu Kusuo would have slapped them. The leopard roared below, and other animals in the primeval forest were also startled by the sound. The bird fluttered and flew up, and Chimyu Kusuo, who was standing on the tree, was hit by the bird's wings and was a little unstable. He shook several times before he got stuck on the branch. The leopard's eyes were green and stared at Chimyu Kusuo. Seeing that Chimyu Kusuo had no intention of coming down from the tree, the leopard simply pounced on him. Oh my god, I have been polite enough to you, but you still come here to kill me. Saimu Kusuo muttered a few words and quickly jumped down from the tree. Seeing the leopard being so ungrateful, Saimu Kusuo felt a little annoyed. A man and a leopard were chasing each other, and Sun Wukong standing aside couldn't stand it anymore. Even if you should have compassion for these animals, you shouldn't have too much compassion. Today, the leopard is obviously seeking death. If you don't do it, I'm afraid the leopard will really bite Saimu Kusuo to death. Since you don't want to be the bad guy, then let me be the one. I can't let you be bitten to death by the leopard, get out of my way. Sun Wukong roared, and then he raised his golden hoop and smashed it. The leopard didn't pay attention at first, and ignored Sun Wukong. Sun Wukong's hands were very powerful, and the leopard's fangs were broken with a fierce blow, and it lay on the ground and screamed in pain. Seeing the leopard's painful expression, Seiki Kusuo frowned. He didn't mean to hurt the leopard, and now, Sun Wukong's attack was inevitably a bit too cruel. Sun Wukong he winked and didn't care too much about it. Since he had taken action, there was no room for regret, not to mention that the leopard had brought it upon itself. The leopard rolled back and forth on the ground for several times, became very angry, and finally pounced on Sun Wukong to bite. Chapter 714. Seeing that the leopard was chasing Sun Wukong, Chimu Nanshong was a little anxious. First, he didn't want to kill, fearing that Sun Wukong would kill the leopard without knowing the severity of the matter. Second, he also felt that it was a bit troublesome. It was not a good idea for the leopard to entangle them like this, and they had to find a way to stop the leopard from attacking. So Seiki Kusuo went up to act as a good guy and said to the leopard, "Don't chase her. If you are angry, come and chase me." It was for his own good that Seiki Kusuo asked the leopard not to continue chasing Sun Wukong, but the leopard understood what he meant. However, Sun Wukong broke his fangs, and he was angry and wanted to press Sun Wukong to the ground and retaliate. "Damn human, do you think you can make me stop like this?" The leopard didn't listen to Seiki Kusuo at all and roared at him fiercely. Then he turned around and jumped, and continued to chase Sun Wukong. Sun Wukong also knew that Seiki Kusuo didn't want to kill, and he didn't attack the leopard. It was true that he broke the leopard's fangs, but she didn't want to apologize at all. She was just a beast and didn't deserve his apology at all. "Stupid leopard, you can't catch up with your grandpa's son, ha ha ha." Sun Wukong managed the distance between himself and the leopard very cleverly. The leopard couldn't catch up with him at all when following him. Moreover, whenever there was a gap, Sun Wukong made a face at the leopard. This made the leopard even angrier and quickened its pace. When Sun Wukong saw that the leopard was getting serious, he also immediately quickened his pace. Seeing this, Seiki Kusuo knew that it was no use for the two of them to chase each other, so he stepped forward to stop the leopard. "Don't chase me. It's his fault that I broke your fangs. But who asked you to appear outside the cave first to scare us? If we hadn't defended ourselves, I'm afraid we would have been in your stomach now." Sun Wukong felt that Seiki Kusuo was too gentle. It was better to kill him directly than to reason with a cold-blooded leopard. It's useless to say that. He can't chew food without teeth. Hearing that Sun Wukong still didn't give up laughing at the leopard, Seiki Kusuo subconsciously covered his face and shook his head. He kindly advised the leopard not to chase Sun Wukong anymore, but who knew that the monkey didn't know how to restrain himself. The leopard looked at Seiki Kusuo and Sun Wukong angrily, and the fur on both of them stood up. "I tell you, monkey, this leopard is angry. You can do whatever you want." He didn't want to care about it anymore, because the monkey didn't listen anyway. However, the noise caused by the leopard was passed to the queen. In less than a few minutes, the queen rushed to Seiki Kusuo with the battle bug. "I heard the sound of the beast. Did something happen?" The queen came in a hurry, obviously worried about the situation here, but she was relieved when she saw that Seiki Kusuo and Sun Wukong were not in any danger. Seiki Kusuo didn't expect that the leopard's behavior would attract the queen and the fighting bug. "Nothing happened, it's just that the monkey and the leopard had a conflict," he explained, and the queen followed his words and looked at the angry leopard. "I thought it was something else. With your strength, can't you deal with a leopard?" It was an ordinary leopard, and the queen felt relieved. Chapter 715. I just don't want to kill easily, but I have given this leopard a chance just now. Since he doesn't cherish it, then I can't do anything. So Seiki Kusuo didn't intend to guarantee this leopard and let them do whatever they want. As expected, as soon as he finished speaking, the queen let her fight attack the leopard. The leopard looked at the insects that were several times smaller than his body, and his eyes showed disdain. But after all, there were more insects, and no matter how powerful the leopard was, he looked at the fighting insects cautiously. Are we being unreasonable? There are so many of us, but we are bullying a little leopard. Sun Wukong was just being ungrateful, but these words sounded like a mockery to the leopard. The leopard roared, jumped up with all four limbs, and attacked the insects. But the fighting insects were not vegetarians either. They were well trained to defend the insect nest, and now they used all their strength to attack the leopard. However, the leopard was the king of the jungle after all. It was not a problem to be sorry for these insects. It was just that there were too many insects, just like a person fighting a round-robin battle, and gradually the leopard was at a disadvantage. The leopard looked at Seiki Kusuo and regretted it very much. He should have listened to the words of the human in front of him. But it was useless to say anything now. The leopard was cautiously guarding against the attack of the fighting insects. But as time went on, the leopard's physical strength gradually ran away. Taking advantage of the gap between the fighting insects' attacks, the leopard suddenly turned around and ran happily. Seeing this, Seiki Kusuo knew that the leopard must want to escape, but he had just given it a chance. If it didn't want to cherish it, then don't blame him for being ruthless. Although the leopard was very fast, Seiki Kusuo was not as fast. Vegetarian, he immediately used his shadow clones to surround the leopard from all sides. The queen looked at Seiki Kusuo's shadow clones and felt her blood boiling. She had always known that Seiki Kusuo was very powerful, but she didn't expect that he could create 8 clones by himself. Sun Wukong also had to sigh that Seiki Kusuo was really a genius. The leopard was besieged by 8 shadow clones. Knowing that she was desperate, she lay on the ground and pretended to be pitiful. This little trick was soon discovered by Seiki Kusuo, the survival instinct of animals, but one of them pretended to be dead, and the other pretended to be pitiful. Seiki Kusuo subconsciously looked at the queen, and the queen immediately understood. She waved her hand and commanded the fighting insects to give the leopard a fatal blow. The leopard was finally subdued by Seiki Kusuo and lay on the ground with one breath. I asked you to chase your grandpa's son, and now you are dead, right? Diaresis. Sun Wukong looked at the leopard lying on the ground, pointed at his head mercilessly and laughed. Enough, monkey. He is already like this, don't leave too big a blow in his heart. Enough. The leopard, who still had a little consciousness, heard Seiki Kusuo's finishing blow, and spat out a mouthful of blood in his heart. The monkey's mouth was already poisonous enough, but he didn't expect that this human's mouth was even more poisonous. The leopard whimpered a few times, and Seiki Kusuo didn't have any sympathy at all. The queen knew that the leopard wanted to attack Seiki Kusuo, and she didn't like this leopard, so she let the fighting bugs surround this leopard, fearing that he would get up and attack people again. Chapter 716. Seiki Kusuo looked at the leopard that had fallen to the ground excitedly, but what Seiki Kusuo didn't notice was that the queen beside him had eyes full of admiration for Seiki Kusuo. That was the way the queen had never appeared before. The fighting bugs were no match for the leopard. They usually ran away when they saw the leopard, so they would not do it like today. Naturally, they were cheering and jumping for joy. After a while, they came over and surrounded the queen. The queen was at a loss for a moment. Chimu Kusuo turned around and saw the smile on the queen's face. Naturally, Sun Wukong saw the interaction between the two, but did not point it out. He didn't say anything, lowered his head and drew circles with the golden hoop. The breeze blew from a distance, blowing the broken hair on the queen's forehead. Chimu Kusuo's stunned look was also imprinted in the queen's eyes. Ahem. Chimu Kusuo saw that he was discovered. After a few awkward coughs, he thought about what to say, and then he saw the queen said, I plan to let the fighting bugs hand over the body of this leopard to the kitchen and let them feed other animals. Hearing the words of the queen, Seiki Kusuo smiled and said, You are still very powerful. That last blow just now was really handsome. Hearing Seiki Kusuo's words, the queen lowered her head shyly. The pink bubbles lingering around made Sun Wukong, who was drawing circles, scratch his hair irritably, and Seiki Kusuo took the opportunity to speak. Today, we killed this leopard, why don't we hold a celebration party? Hearing Seiki Kusuo's proposal, the queen raised her head, her eyes lit up, and then said, okay. It just so happens that it hasn't been so lively here for a long time, so it's naturally great. Seeing the queen's excitement like a child, Seiki Kusuo also became happy. Sun Wukong heard what the two people were discussing on the side, coughed awkwardly, called Seiki Kusuo over, and then stretched out his hand to hit Seiki Kusuo on the head and said, are you a fool? We have been here for such a long time, we should have left long ago, and you even proposed to hold a celebration party. I, old Sun, really can't stand it. If you like the queen, just say it loudly, why beat around the bush like this? After Sun Wukong spoke out Seiki Kusuo's thoughts, Seiki Kusuo looked back at the queen awkwardly, and found that there was no change on the queen's face. She glared at Sun Wukong and said, come on, you'd better keep your voice down, otherwise it will be bad if she hears it. We have been displaced this time, and we don't know what we will encounter. If I express my feelings, she will definitely follow me. When the time comes, I can't protect her when we encounter danger. What should I do? Seiki Kusuo's worry is not without reason. After all, the journey this time is still very long, so naturally there is no time to take care of the love between men and women. Besides, she has the final say here, and it is naturally best for her to be here. HMPH, if I, old Sun, say it, you are a coward. You should think about how to talk to your queen. After saying that, Sun Wukong kicked the weeds in the forest and turned around to climb up the tree. Ignoring Seiki Kusuo, Seiki Kusuo sighed helplessly when he saw it, and turned back to look at the queen. When the queen saw him looking over, she smiled at Seiki Kusuo and then said, what's wrong? Chapter 717. The queen was still talking enthusiastically with the fighting bugs about the celebration party, and when she turned around, she saw Sun Wukong climbing the tree and looking at Seiki Kusuo, who also looked worried. Naturally, she became worried, and a bad premonition spread in the queen's heart. Seiki Kusuo opened his mouth to say it, but stopped talking. Although Sun Wukong had his back to Seiki Kusuo, his ears were always paying attention to the situation over there. After hearing the queen's question, Seiki Kusuo hesitated to speak. Sun Wukong turned around directly, and saw Seiki Kusuo's cowardly look, and he was furious. Seiki Kusuo sighed, and then said helplessly to the queen Tilda. This time, I'm afraid it won't be a celebration party. We have to leave, so let's have a farewell party for the last time. Hearing Seiki Kusuo's words, the queen's smile froze. A trace of reluctance flashed in her eyes, but then she straightened her expression and said, why is it so sudden? The queen suppressed her discomfort and asked Seiki Kusuo. We should have left a long time ago, but we were delayed by this leopard. The helplessness in Seiki Kusuo's tone made the queen even more sad. That's really a pity. After the queen finished speaking, she asked the fighting bugs to go back first and told everyone to prepare for the farewell party in the evening. The fighting bugs also looked at Seiki Kusuo reluctantly. But they had no choice but to follow the queen's order, and moved one after another, walked over and moved the leopard's body back. Seiki Kusuo looked at the figure of the fighting bugs leaving, and felt uncomfortable. Although we don't have many delicacies here, as long as you want to eat, we can definitely satisfy you here. The queen tried to persuade him to stay. There are many animals and plants here that are very interesting. Before Seiki Kusuo could say anything, the queen continued. Even though Seiki Kusuo was reluctant to leave, he had to harden his heart at this moment. He couldn't be so selfish. Sun Wukong, who was sitting on the tree, felt a little embarrassed at this time. He jumped down, then went to the stream, looked at the fish in the water, and thought about the fact that he had accompanied his master to the west. This scene seemed familiar. Thinking back then, the king of the Kingdom of Women also tried to persuade his master to stay in this way, but his master had already become a monk and devoted himself to Buddhism, which was a pity for that marriage. 0 Request flowers. Now, the scene between Seiki Kusuo and the queen has reappeared, but Sun Wukong feels that Seiki Kusuo will break up the love affair like his master. They are not from this world. If they really leave a relationship, they will leave at any time later. At that time, I am afraid they will be more helpless. Presumably, the queen will not be able to bear the longing and leave the world early. Seiki Kusuo naturally does not know Sun Wukong's sigh. Hearing the woman he likes say this person will be a little shaken, but thinking of the task he is carrying, Seiki Kusuo still smiled bitterly, then shook his head and said, I have more important things to do, and I can't stay for this selfish desire. Seiki Kusuo's words gradually extinguished the queen's expectant eyes. I remembered that there was still Sun Wukong on the tree, and I wanted to persuade Sun Wukong to persuade Seiki Kusuo, but when I looked up, there was no Sun Wukong on the tree. He just left. Seiki Kusuo knew what the queen was looking for, so he said, Work. Chapter 718. Seiki Kusuo looked around, and Sun Wukong should have gone far away, and then looked at the queen standing in front of him. I have made up my mind to leave, and I have to leave. I hope you can understand that I came to this world with a purpose, and I even want to explore new worlds, so I can't stay here forever. I still have to take risks. Seiki Kusuo's words were simple and clear, and even if the queen was reluctant, she couldn't say anything. Well, since you have made up your mind, I will not say anything more. I can only wish you a smooth journey. But please remember that I still have the battle bugs, and they are all your backing. If anything happens in the future, you can come back to me. Chimyu Kusuo stretched out his hand and wanted to shake hands with the queen. The queen saw Chimyu Kusuo's reaction, and then stretched out her hand and shook hands with Chimyu Kusuo. Time was running out, and she could only feel the remaining warmth. The queen took Chimyu Kusuo's hand and made a final request. Can I hold your hand and go back, and let go when we reach the door? Chimyu Kusuo didn't want to agree, but he was about to leave. No matter what, this was her last wish, and she couldn't fail to satisfy it. So he agreed. Okay. Then the two of them went back hand in hand, and Sun Wukong was behind them. Then, watching the two people walking in front, he unconsciously remembered the things of the past. Now Chimyu Kusuo has left the queen with a little beautiful nostalgia. His master didn't leave anything behind. He fooled the queen and then left. He lied to her, but she loved him all her life. Is this kind of feeling really worth it? This is what Sun Wukong thought, but he didn't understand. Chimyu Kusuo and the queen went back hand in hand. When they got outside, they reluctantly separated. If you ask if Chimyu Kusuo felt reluctant, he definitely did, but this reluctance was nothing in front of justice. Okay, let's go back and prepare for the dinner. Sun Wukong and I will be there in the evening. The queen nodded and went to make arrangements. Chimyu Kusuo looked behind him. Sun Wukong didn't follow him, so he could only walk back. When they arrived at the river, they found Sun Wukong sitting there, looking at the lake in the distance 0. Chimyu Kusuo walked to Sun Wukong's side and sat on a small stone beside him. What are you thinking about? Sun Wukong didn't look at Seiki Kusuo, but just asked, I'm thinking about you humans, and my mood is really complicated. Seiki Kusuo was puzzled. Why do you say that? Sometimes I really don't understand you humans. If it were you, and you really fell in love with someone in the future, the kind that you couldn't help but love, would you give up so easily? Would you choose justice or her? After asking this, Seiki Kusuo really didn't know how to answer. You ask this now, I really don't know how to answer you, but if you stay with me in the future, you will definitely see this scene, and then you will know what I will do. Sun Wukong chuckled. I have been slaying demons and monsters all my life, and I have tried my best for my master. Although at the beginning, he didn't trust me like you, but fortunately, later, I walked into his heart and he still believed in me. Chapter 719. Seiki Kusuo knew what Sun Wukong's life was like, so he didn't say too much, and understood what Sun Wukong couldn't understand. Maybe you will understand later. Sun Wukong smiled bitterly. Forget it, I don't want to experience what you have experienced, annoying. Since you know what kind of person Sun Wukong is, you naturally know that Sun Wukong is a person who is particularly afraid of trouble. Forget it, I don't want you to experience those bad things. 06. Sun Wukong looked up at the time. It seemed that the two of them had been sitting here chatting for a long time. He had picked up all the small stones around him and thrown them into the river. The banquet should start soon. We can eat leopard meat today. It's because my master is not here. If my master is here, he will definitely say that they are all lives. No matter what, they must be released. Chimyu Kusuo naturally knew what kind of person Sun Wukong's master was. He just smiled lightly, then patted Sun Wukong on the shoulder, stood up and called Sun Wukong back. The celebration held in the evening was also to send off Chimyu Kusuo. So, during this meal, Seiki Kusuo didn't leave any food in his stomach. He took Sun Wukong to eat and drank a lot of wine. At the table, the two of them were drinking happily. They completely forgot that there was someone staring at them. The queen's reluctant eyes kept falling on Seiki Kusuo. Since when did her heart unconsciously stay on him? Was it from the first time she was chosen as the queen? At that time, she actually didn't have a high status. She just relied on her slightly higher talent and occupied a place in the insect group. But because of the queen at that time, she would never have a place to stand out. Since the male protagonist came and killed the previous queen, she succeeded to the throne as the new queen. During her reign, many combat insects expressed dissatisfaction. Then Seiki Kusuo would eliminate those insects that were not obedient at all, leaving only those obedient and loyal insects to stay by his side. It's not that she didn't understand what Seiki Kusuo's purpose was. It was for him to clear the obstacles, not for herself, but her heart unconsciously stayed on Seiki Kusuo. I believe that it has been so long, his heart should also be on her. But they just have reasons why they can't be together. The queen walked to Seiki Kusuo and raised the wine glass. I wish you a safe journey. Seiki Kusuo looked at the queen with a smile and clinked glasses with her. Thank you. Then, at night, Seiki Kusuo drank too much, but Sun Wukong didn't drink too much. If Sun Wukong could get too drunk, then Seiki Kusuo might not be his opponent. Sun Wukong was particularly perceptive and stood up. I'll leave him to you. I'll leave first. Sun Wukong didn't know what would happen if he handed Seiki Kusuo to a woman. After all, Sun Wukong's mind was very simple and he didn't think about those things. The queen helped Seiki Kusuo up and helped him walk to where he lived. He held Seiki Kusuo's waist tightly with his hands, and when they got to the place, he let Seiki Kusuo lie down. Then he looked at Seiki Kusuo's face and said, I want to leave something for you, but I can't leave anything, so forget it. Chapter 720. The next day, in the morning, Seiki Kusuo woke up and found himself lying on the bed. After getting up and going out, he found Sun Wukong squatting outside. Seiki Kusuo walked over. Why are you squatting here? Aren't you sleeping? Sun Wukong glanced at Seiki Kusuo. The queen just left not long ago, how can I sleep? Seiki Kusuo was still wondering what the queen was doing here for so long. Sun Wukong didn't say anything, just got up and went into the house. Packed up. Should we leave? Seiki Kusuo also went back to pack up his things, and after packing up, he followed Sun Wukong away. When they got outside, Sun Wukong stopped and looked at Seiki Kusuo. Should we say goodbye to them formally? Seiki Kusuo didn't want to do it at first, thinking it was unnecessary. But since this was what Sun Wukong said, he went to take a look. Then the two of them came to the nest of the fighting bugs again. After entering, they came to the main seat and saw the queen sitting on it. After Seiki Kusuo entered, all the fighting bugs knelt down. He bowed to him, and then he walked to the queen. This time he gave the queen enough face. I'm leaving, take care of yourself. Although the queen was reluctant, she had no choice but to do so. So the queen smiled gently. I'll wait for you to come back, we will always be here waiting for you. Chimyu Kusuo knew that this was impossible. For the race of fighting bugs, the queen not only had to lead the entire race, but also had to reproduce the entire family of fighting bugs. If she refused to reproduce, she would easily be pulled down and pushed to become a new queen. So, Chimyu Kusuo understood, and the queen understood even more. Take care of yourself. If there is something you can't solve, then. The queen smiled slightly. Even if there is something you can't solve, I can't find you, so I still have to rely on myself. Chimyu Kusuo nodded. Then he turned and left. The queen looked at the back of Chimu Kusuo and shed tears unconsciously. She knew that this separation might be forever and she might never see him again in the future, but she still had to say what she should say. She wanted to wait for him to come back, even if this wait was forever. Chimu Kusuo and Sun Wukong left. After coming out, Sun Wukong looked at Chimu Kusuo. What's going on? Have you said everything you need to say? Chimu Kusuo nodded. It's clear, let's go. Sun Wukong nodded, and then the two of them set off on their journey. It was quite boring along the way. Sun Wukong didn't talk much, so it was a bit difficult to just expect Seiki Kusuo to entertain himself. Sun Wukong seemed to have discovered something, but he never said it out loud. Seiki Kusuo kept looking back, but he didn't find anything either, and thought it was his own illusion. Finally, when Sun Wukong was walking with Seiki Kusuo, he said, "There is something following us. It has been following us since we came out of the battle bug's nest. We don't know if it's an enemy or a friend, and we don't know if it will harm us." Seiki Kusuo looked back with a questioning expression, but he didn't find any trace of anything following them. In terms of this ability, Sun Wukong was better. Should we find him out now, or just let him follow like this? Chapter 721. Seiki Kusuo looked at me behind him, and then looked at Sun Wukong beside him. It seems that he is not harmful to us now, so just follow him and see what happens. Then the two continued to move forward. It can't be said that the journey was very peaceful. The two people didn't bring much. Although Sun Wukong was a monk, he was different from Tang Seng. Sun Wukong killed, ate meat, and drank alcohol. So on this journey, the two people didn't abide by many monks' disciplines. When they were hungry, they would hunt in the forest on the side, and then bring back what they caught, roast and eat it. Although it is said that the meat in the wilderness lacks some flavor, the original taste of the meat is the freshest. Chimu Kusuo gave a piece of rabbit meat to Sun Wukong, and then he took a piece of meat to eat. Just at this time, a gurgling sound suddenly sounded in the empty forest. Needless to say, it must be the fighting bugs hiding in the dark who were hungry. They had been following behind them, but they had not eaten anything. It was also very tolerable. The two looked at each other, and then followed the sound and found a bush hidden in it's little bug. After seeing Seiki Kusuo, the little bug wanted to run, but was caught by Seiki Kusuo. Seiki Kusuo picked up the little bug and said, "Where are you going?" The little bug stopped struggling when he saw that he was caught, and looked at Seiki Kusuo aggrievedly. "I ran away secretly, and the queen didn't know." Seiki Kusuo put the little bug down, then returned to the fire and looked at the little bug. "Are you hungry?" The little bug touched his stomach and nodded slightly. Then Seiki Kusuo tore a piece of rabbit meat and threw it to the little bug, and the little bug ate happily, and then Seiki Kusuo started his own culture. "You ran away secretly. Why?" The little bug looked at Seiki Kusuo and said, "I know you may not know me, but you are the hero of our entire fighting insect group. I have been secretly observing you in the dark, and I want to be by your side." After listening to these words, Sun Wukong did not express his opinion. Seiki Kusuo looked at Sun Wukong's face. His face was calm. It seemed that he felt that the little bug in front of him was not a threat to them, but it was uncertain. Who knew if this little bug would hurt them in the dark? They had come to this world. They couldn't keep a watchful eye on anyone. Go ahead. It's safest to go back to the fighting bugs group before you go far away. But the little bug stood up and insisted, "Since I've come out, I'm not thinking about going back. I want to stay by your side and don't want to be idle in the fighting bugs group." Good boy, this little guy still knows what it means to be idle. But what can you do if you stay with us? At the critical moment, can you protect yourself? You can't even protect yourself, let alone protect us. So go back quickly and don't waste time on us. I won't keep you around. Leave after you finish eating. If you don't have food, I will go and get you some rabbits and pheasants. You can take them with you on the way. The little bug frowned and said, "I won't go back. I'm determined." Chapter 722. Chimu Kusuo always felt that this little bug must not think that way in his heart. There must be other reasons. So he asked the little bug, "You can let me take you with me, but you have to tell me the truth. Why did you come out?" The little bug looked at Chimu Kusuo's face and said, I really think you are very powerful. It is better to stay with you than to stay in the tribe of fighting bugs. Our fighting bugs don't have a long life. If a batch dies, there will be a new batch to make up for it. So I don't want to stay in the tribe like those ordinary fighting bugs for a lifetime. I also want to see what the outside world looks like. Chimu Kusuo didn't know if he could accept this reason. He still remembered how this fighting bug treated him before. If he kept a single fighting bug by his side now, there would be no benefit, so Chimu Kusuo didn't want to agree to the little bug's request. No, you go back. There is no room for negotiation on this matter. You rest here tonight and go back in the morning. If you really don't want to go back, I can send you back with him. This is equivalent to sentencing this fighting bug to death. He must be sent back, but there is no other way now, so he can only wait. The little bug agreed first, and tomorrow's matter will be discussed tomorrow. Maybe tomorrow, Seiki Kusuo will change his mind. The three people were eating rabbit meat. Seiki Kusuo and Sun Wukong had a big appetite, and this little rabbit was barely enough. So the two discussed going in to find something and come back to eat. Sun Wukong was better at catching things, so this task was given to Sun Wukong. When Sun Wukong came back with a rabbit and 2 pheasants, Seiki Kusuo laughed. We can't eat so much food even if we can. Isn't it because there is one more? After saying that, he looked at the little bug on the side, and it was true. The two were just about to clean up these things, and then the little bug took over. Boss. I'll do it, I know how to do it, and I guarantee that it will be handled cleanly. Now there is a free labor force, so there is nothing to do. Besides, handling chickens and rabbits is also a technical job. The rabbit needs to be skinned and the internal organs taken out. 0 Please give flowers. It's relatively easy. The chickens also need to be plucked, especially the pheasant's feathers, which are difficult to pluck. Even Sun Wukong and Seiki Kusuo didn't want to handle it. Since the little bug volunteered, give him a chance. Then Sun Wukong gave the chicken and rabbit in his hand to the little bug. The little bug thought that this was the first task given to him by Seiki Kusuo, so he walked to the river happily and handled it. The two sat together and looked at the little bug by the river. I suddenly feel that this little thing seems to be pretty good. Maybe what he said is true. The lifespan of combat bugs is generally not long. Maybe it really wants to come out and see, so it follows you. Seiki Kusuo looked at the little bug by the river from a distance. He had more thoughts in his mind. He still didn't trust anyone except Sun Wukong. You are Sun Wukong. You understand some things even if I don't tell you. If your master had half of my vigilance, he wouldn't have driven you away again and again. Gong. Chapter 723 Sun Wukong smiled. It was the same. Now that Seiki Kusuo mentioned it, he remembered how his master drove him away again and again. When was the first time? Because he killed a few robbers, his master said that he had no affinity with Buddhism and let him go, so he went to the old Dragon King to drink. Finally, because he remembered the teachings of Guanyin, he went back and put on the tight hoop. 127 I have always been naughty, and then I was controlled by him. The second time should be when he fought the White Bone Demon for the 3rd time. He protected his master again and again, but his master thought he had killed someone and drove him away. Finally, he was called back because he was captured by the Yellow Robe monster, and his fellow apprentices had no way to deal with it. Even Xiao Beilong came out, but he still couldn't deal with the monster. The master learned from the owl monster that he was driven away because he was wronged. Later. Too many, Sun Wukong knew the feeling of being with others but not being trusted. Why he liked to be with Seiki Kusuo was because Seiki Kusuo gave him 100% trust, so he was willing to be with Seiki Kusuo. Now if someone wants to join, Seiki Kusuo has to think for a long time. This world is different from the world where Sun Wukong lives. In that world, some monsters transform into humans, and his fire eyes can see those monsters at a glance, but it's different here. These monsters are just monsters. They don't bother to become human because humans are alien species here, and monsters are the majority. The fire eyes and golden pupils are no longer useful. You can only rely on your own abilities to see the true intentions of those monsters. Now Seiki Kusuo is on guard for their future. I know what you think in your heart, but I think we should give the kid a chance. I don't think this kid can be a big threat to us. With his appearance, I can kill hundreds of him with just a flick of my finger. What Sun Wukong said was true. In front of Sun Wukong, the leopard was no match, not to mention the little fighting bug in front of him. While the two were talking, the little bug came back with 2 bald chickens and a skinned rabbit in his hands. Boss, it's done. There's still some fluff on the chicken. It's dark and I can't see it clearly. If you roast it, the fluff will fall off. I still have some common sense. So he hummed, and the little bug found 2 wooden sticks, stuck the chicken on them and roasted it. And the other rabbit was stuck on the stick they had roasted the rabbit on before. The 3 of them had another delicious meal. In fact, this kind of life is not bad. After eating and drinking, it was already very dark. Most people dare not sleep in such an environment. There are not only pheasants and rabbits in this forest, but also some wolves, tigers, leopards, and other species. Naturally, you have to be careful. Taking turns to keep watch is the safest. Chimyu Kusuo said to Sun Wukong, I will keep watch for the first half of the night, and you for the second half of the night. But Sun Wukong said bluntly, it doesn't matter, you just sleep, I'll take care of everything. With Sun Wukong by your side, this is called real security. Okay, then I'll sleep. If there is anything, remember to call me. Quote. Chapter 724. The next day had not arrived yet, and Seiki Kusuo was sleeping. The little bug was not sleeping, and walked to stand in front of Sun Wukong. Can you let the boss keep me? I really don't want to leave. Sun Wukong glanced at the little bug and said, that's his decision, and I can't do anything about it. Don't you have a good relationship with the boss? As long as you ask, the boss will definitely listen. After saying this, Sun Wukong thought about whether this matter was worth it. When he was with his master before, no matter what he said or did, he always didn't believe it, so he suffered a lot. When Red Boy was killed, he had to save people. When the White 06 Rat Demon was killed, he still had to save people. Now he has no backbone, and he has to ask Seiki Kusuo for everything. If it is a matter of his own decision. Will Seiki Kusuo listen? He also wants to try. I will help you persuade him, but whether he listens or not is up to him. After hearing this, Xiao Chongzi was also very happy and glad, which proved that he still had a chance to stay. Thank you, I will definitely follow the boss well and will not cause any trouble. Then Xiao Chongzi went to the side and sat down, without any intention of sleeping. When he woke up the next day, Saimyu Kusuo had a good sleep. Although in this environment, Saimyu Kusuo had already gotten used to it. Seeing that Xiao Chongzi and Sun Wukong were both there, he went to the river to wash his face, and then came back to roast the rabbit meat and pheasant meat that he had not finished eating last night. Eat it, I will take you back after you finish eating. Saimyu Kusuo handed Xiao Chongzi a string of chicken. Xiao Chongzi was stunned after hearing this, and then looked at Sun Wukong. But Sun Wukong said carelessly, I have promised to let him stay. When this was said, Saimyu Kusuo was stunned. No. When did you agree? Why don't I know? Sun Wukong seemed to think about it, and then said, after you fell asleep last night, we talked all night. I think this little guy is good, so I agreed to keep him. After that, Seiki Kusuo stood up and pulled Sun Wukong aside. Why didn't you discuss this matter with me before keeping him? Sun Wukong said innocently, I don't think he is dangerous to us. How can there be no danger? Have you forgotten how I killed their previous queen? Their previous queen also had a large number of followers. At the beginning, we killed a lot of fighting bugs to suppress the rebellious hearts of those followers. The origin of this fighting bug is unknown. If we rashly accept him, what will happen in the end, no one knows. Sun Wukong thought about it and it was the same. What should we do now? Continue to send him away. Seiki Kusuo's attitude was very firm. We must send him away. We can't do it without sending him away. In fact, Sun Wukong was already very relieved. That's why after knowing that he had made a decision, Seiki Kusuo not only did not blame him, but also explained to him why he couldn't keep this fighting bug. He was already very satisfied. You were right, let's send him away. Seiki Kusuo knew that Sun Wukong had already promised others, and it would definitely not be good to let Sun Wukong say it now, so he decided to say it himself. Chapter 725. Sun Wukong and Seiki Kusuo walked to the side of the little bug, looking down at him, which made the little bug quite nervous. The little bug swallowed and looked at Sun Wukong and Seiki Kusuo. I still decided that I can't keep you, so you have to go. When the little bug heard it, he looked at Sun Wukong again. This time, Sun Wukong didn't mean to interfere. He had told him that the real decision was made by Seiki Kusuo. He was only responsible for persuading them, and it was still unclear whether it would work or not. The little bug saw that Seiki Kusuo was determined, so he lay on the ground and started rolling. I won't. I will stay with you and I won't leave. Seiki Kusuo and Sun Wukong had never seen such a shameless person. You can't drive me away. I will come back even if you drive me away. Now you are far away from the fighting insect swarm. If you send me back, it will be a waste of time. This is the truth. Now they have been out for a long time. If they thought that the person following them was a bad guy, they could just solve it directly without going through so much trouble. Unexpectedly, it was such a thing following them. They couldn't bear to kill him, but sending him back without killing him would waste time. Finally, Seiki Kusuo compromised. Okay, stop rolling around, I'll let you follow me diaresis. When he heard this, the little bug sat up from the ground. You are telling the truth, aren't you lying to me? Chimyu Kusuo rubbed his head, feeling a real headache. No, if I throw you away now, do you still have a chance? You are such a tantrum, where can I throw you? How did you follow us all the way? Isn't it by smell? If I throw you away again, you can still find us by smell. The little bug smiled. Boss, although I am not particularly powerful, I can be a little follower by your side. The ability of our fighting bugs is determined by age. When I grow up, maybe I can be powerful and can protect you, boss. Chimyu Kusuo just listened to this. You should protect yourself first, don't talk about protecting me. After that, he packed up and prepared to go on the road. Then Xiao Chongzi took his small bag and followed them. The two people in front were very tall and completely blocked Xiao Chongzi behind him, but he didn't mind. Instead, he thought it was a good thing. The two big brothers in front protected him. It was thrilling along the way. Occasionally, he would encounter some ghosts and monsters that said they were jumping alone, but they were also dealt with by Sun Wukong and Seiki Kusuo. Xiao Chongzi was even more surprised at the abilities of the two people. Boss. Can you teach me? Kiki Kusuo looked at Xiao Chongzi. Just you, learn slowly, you still have a lot to learn. Even if Seiki Kusuo and Sun Wukong refused to teach the little bug didn't seem to be unwilling at all, but was more happy to follow them. These ordinary monsters were killed and left alone. Good, but they didn't waste those leopards, wild boars and other things. After killing them, they ate them. If they couldn't eat them, they would put them aside, but they wouldn't waste their claws. This Sun Wukong's ears can hide the golden hoop, but they can't hide food. Their stomachs are also limited. If they can carry it, they will carry it with them. If not, they can only give up. After all, it's not easy to travel with so many things.